The New York Times devoted an entire op-ed page this weekend to a searing critique of the banking community and its overseers in Washington. Our next guest is the co-author of that piece, Bill Cohen, a former banker who now writes about Wall Street, most recently in his chronicle of the downfall of Bear Stearns' House of Cards. He's here with me in the studio right now. Bill, always good to have you.
Good morning, Eric.
In this op-ed, you talk about huge structural flaws in the banking industry and the proposed fixes that you say may make the problem worse, not better. What is the problem as you see it? Rather, the situation worse, not better. But let's talk about the problem. What's wrong with the way the Obama administration is dealing with this?
Well, first, Eric, I think if we just step back all of 6 months, right? Remember how everyone would have agreed 6 months ago that our banking system was in a serious crisis. It was literally falling apart, and that it seemed that everything that had been done historically in the banking system was now revealed as flawed. And yet, what are we doing? I think what is the key tenet of what the Obama administration is trying to do is, number one, restore confidence, which I really can't fault them for. That's very important. But they're also moving as quickly as they possibly can back to restoring the very same system that we all figured out 6 months ago was deeply flawed. Why are they doing that?
In this piece, good question. I'm afraid I don't have an answer for it, but you do raise some very good ones. And in the piece, you talk about the two things that the administration is doing. One of them, an attempt to reinflate credit, let's say, and the other, maintain what you say is a lack of transparency. Of those two sins, let's call them, which is worse for the rest of us?
Well, I mean, they're in that call to arms, if you will, because they're both very important. But when you create this credit drip in our arms, whether it's the TALF program, even some aspects of the TARP program, the so-called PPIP program, these programs are designed to jumpstart the various aspects of our financial capital market systems that haven't been working. Rather than just artificially stimulating these programs, let's get back to more of a market-based stimulation of buyers and sellers in the market. That's not happening, and the only way to have that happen is to remove the morphine drip, remove some aspects of these programs. If some firms have to fail as a result, then that has to happen to get us back to a properly functioning capital market system. So far, nobody's been willing to take that chance, and I think that's a shame.
Bill, one or two of the things that you called for strike me as unrealistic. In other words, you say before the banks pay back the TARP money, the CEOs should kind of testify, give a deposition, and say what caused the financial crisis and what role they played in it. I mean, this is more of a reaction piece. I mean, this is not a clear suggestion, is it?
Well, I actually disagree with you. I think we have a moment right now, because when is the TARP funds about to be paid back? This week they're going to get the clearance to do it. As the quid pro quo, before they make that final decision, they should have these guys come up and tell the American people what they did here and why. No one has offered to do that. I think we're owed an explanation $12 trillion later. We're owed an explanation for why this happened. And I think this is a perfect moment to do it. A nice quid pro quo that we can tie the two together. I think it is realistic, and I think the administration should do it.
Doesn't look as though it's going to happen this week. Bill, you were just saying how we need a market-based system. We need to allow some firms to fail if possible. But is it really possible that we can do that right now? Can we restore confidence in the economy at the same time as restructuring the banking system? Do you not need to worry about one first and then come back and fix banks? Because let's assume for a moment that the economy is more important.
Well, the economy is one of the points that we made, is that you cannot just focus on the top of the pyramid, the banks, the insurance companies, the hedge funds, the private equity firms, and get them back to health without taking care of the bottom of the pyramid. You know, they talk about the slowdown in the rate of job loss and that's a good thing. Well, maybe that is a good thing, but that doesn't do anything for the people who've lost their jobs, who can't make their mortgage, who no longer have any desire to buy a car or anything else that they used to be buying in droves, 3 years ago. So you need to restore the confidence among that level of people. And sometimes, Eric, taking that morphine drip out of our arms and making us feel the pain is going to be much better for us in the long run. We used to be a very frugal nation. We used to take prudent risks with our money, our shareholders' money. We used to not buy things we didn't need or couldn't afford. Why isn't Obama talking about those kinds of values that are so important to what made this country great? Let's get back to that. We'll all be better off in the long run for that.
Here's a question with about 30 seconds. Is there anything like a conspiracy going on here?
I don't, you know.
I mean, you know, people talk about Tim Geithner, former New York Fed president, knows all these guys well.
Larry Summers. Yes, there's, I mean, I'm not saying yes, there's a conspiracy. I'm saying, yes, I hear those thoughts all the time. I don't think there's any evidence per se yet. There are a lot of interesting coincidences and a lot of interesting selections that the Obama administration has made in terms of personnel who seem to be perpetuating a system of decisions that are propping up the old system, which is unfortunate. This is a real opportunity. A crisis gives you an opportunity to change things, and we're letting it slip by.
All right, Bill, I'd like to thank you for being here and even more outspoken than perhaps ever before. Bill Cohen, author of House of Cards, joining us.